Operation Mayday is a new series documenting New Zealand's most daring rescues. These extraordinary stories will be told through unique archive footage, emotional personal accounts and dramatic reconstruction.
Mask down, mask down!
Okay. Well, we've got 7 minutes. We've only got 7 minutes.
Mayday reload. Mayday reload.
I promised my family an adventure of a lifetime. I had never ever imagined that the adventure of a lifetime would end up with us in the situation where we'd really stare death in the face.
300 nautical miles from New Zealand on the way home from Tonga, experienced sailors Dr. Charles Bradfield, his wife Joy and their 6 children hit a violent and terrifying storm.
When disaster struck, I was on the helm with Thomas, and we went over a big wave and came crashing down the other side. And there was this big snap, and as we came down the other side of the wave, the mast had broken into several pieces, and I just yelled, "Mast down, mast down!"
This mast had almost crushed me, and I couldn't believe how lucky I was that I was still alive when right next to where I was lying, the mast was there.
And I said to Mum, you need to look after Thomas because he's actually come, this close to dying and not being here with us.
And I went downstairs and I cried.
Matt came up with the bolt cutters all ready to cut the rigging loose, and Dad comes up and says, "Stop." He says, "We're in a stable situation. We don't need to make this worse. The rigging is now wrapped around our prop. If we cut this, we have a risk of putting a hole in our boat and sinking." And then he said, "I want you to deploy the EPIRB."
Mayday reload. Mayday reload.
When Charles told Matt to set off the EPIRB distress signal, it was clear to the whole family they were in very serious danger.
Our boat was not going to get us home. New plan to be made and totally out of my control.
And if Dad doesn't know what to do, then no one knows what to do.
Charles's greatest concern was his youngest daughter.
If the breaking of the keel was a reality, then we would have a good chance of having perhaps a fatality on board. The rest of everybody else, who were all reasonable swimmers, might escape the boat, but she would not be able to escape.
I didn't know what to do, and I was really nervous.
Rebecca was only 6 at the time, and she said, "Dad, you've ruined my life." And that was a moment where it cut deep. I thought, yeah, you're right, sweetheart, I probably have, actually. I might have ruined all our lives.
I remember it all, but not that much.
Then it was kind of despair, and it was, dread, and your heart feels so heavy, and you don't know what's going to happen.
I remember sitting up on deck with Josh and crying and leaning over the side and just crying a lot.
What if a bad situation got worse, and what you're okay with suddenly becomes a fight for survival in frigid water with 8 people in the water. You can't tie a lifeline onto anything because the boat's going to sink, so 8 people floating in the water, how do you get to everyone? These were the realities that we were faced with.
We were in trouble and we needed to do something about it.
With the radio mast broken, the only way of getting help was to use the satellite phone, but that had just 7 minutes of call time left on it.
Maritime Operations, Tony Graham speaking. We're a yacht just off the tip of New Zealand, and we have been demasted. We've set off our EPIRB, but haven't been able to contact anyone by radio.
Okay, are you the Cadenza?
We are Cadenza, that's right. Zulu Mike Alpha 2464. We have 8 people on board, 2 adults and 6 children, but we have no means of rescuing ourselves.
Do you have a life raft?
We have a life raft, so if something happens, we'll be able to ditch into the life raft. It's my concern is that it's a mom and dad and 6 children, and so I'm not about to do anything heroic to save the vessel. I'd rather save my children.
Okay.
Well, we've got 7 minutes. We've only got 7 minutes.
Only 7 minutes.
When my phone goes out, are you able to phone me back?
And they may ring you back, okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's fine, sir. Okay, just stand by your phone.
Hearing nothing, they put out a mayday call for assistance from any passing ships.
Mayday reload. Mayday reload. They wish to abandon their vessel. for the sake of their children. They wish to abandon the vessel for the sake of their children. Do you copy?
Coach Hobart, Taupo Maritime, Roger sir, all cockpit persons wish to abandon Crenza. They wish to abandon the vessel.
The nearest boat, La Glorieuse, dispatched to save them, was 11 hours away. A long night lay ahead, so the family battened down the hatches and prayed for survival.
We had this calm feeling that it was going to be okay, but we didn't know whether that was dead or alive. And that's an experience I've never had before. We didn't know whether we were going to make it. We just knew that we were all together and it was going to be okay.
And in that moment, having all your family around was the best feeling in the world. I've never felt closer to any single one of them.
Well, at daybreak, you'd better believe that we were ready to be rescued.
Charles still had one last heartbreaking challenge ahead. The Navy insisted he sink his own boat.
It's a very emotional thing I've got to tell you, is to sink your own boat. The first time that I actually shed a tear was when my whole family were left on the... When my whole family were left on the warship. The French seamen remained in the Zodiac, and then they left me quietly to just sit with the boat before I left. And I took the New Zealand flag, which we'd proudly flown off the back. I took that and a picture that belonged to the previous owner, and I took the picture off the boat, and those were the two things that I took off. And that's the first time that I actually shed a tear then, because it was a whole era for us. This was an expensive boat which we'd sacrificed as a family to get, and we had many years of really great adventures in her, done some serious sailing.
The most heroic thing you did, and the biggest example to me and I think the rest of the family, was when it came to crunch time. There was no heroics. You didn't try and save your boat. You didn't put anything above us.
There was no risk involved.
There was no risk. There was no question. It was my family first. Yeah. And for all of us, thank you.